The amber light of a late October afternoon was spilling through my kitchen window, painting the familiar contours of my home in warm, honeyed tones. It was a Tuesday, the kind of day so ordinary it was almost sacred in its simplicity. I'd just gotten home from work, the scent of brewing coffee beginning to fill the air, the quiet hum of the refrigerator a comforting baseline to my thoughts. My phone, buzzing on the granite countertop, was an intrusion. I glanced at the screen. Mark. A smile touched my lips. Mark and I went back to college, over 15 years now. He was the charismatic one, the life of every party, the guy with a laugh that could fill a room and a seemingly endless well of optimism. We'd been through it all, failed exams, first loves, career changes, his messy divorce 2 years prior. I'd been his rock during that time, the one who'd answered the 3 a.m. calls, helped him move into his sterile new apartment, and listened for hours as he pieced his heart back together. Our friendship was a cornerstone of my life, sturdy and reliable. "Hey, Mark," I answered, cradling the phone between my shoulder and ear as I poured a mug of coffee. "What's up? Ready to get crushed in fantasy football this weekend?" There was a pause on the other end, a beat too long. The usual background noise of his life, the TV, the city street sounds from his downtown apartment, was absent. It was just silence, thick and heavy. "Jake." His voice was different. It was flat, stripped of its characteristic warmth and energy. It was the voice of a man standing on a ledge. I set the coffee pot down, my own casual demeanor evaporating. "Mark, you okay, buddy? You sound off." "I'm not great, Jake." He let out a long, shaky exhale. "I'm in a situation, a bad one. I didn't know who else to call." My mind immediately went to financial trouble. Mark was a freelance graphic designer, and his income could be unpredictable. Or maybe it was his ex-wife, Christine, causing more legal headaches. "Whatever it is, man, we'll figure it out," I said, my tone firm and reassuring. "You know that. Is it money? Do you need a loan? Just tell me how much." Another pause. This one was longer, more profound. I could hear him breathing, a ragged, controlled sound. "It's not money, Jake." His voice dropped to a near whisper, as if he was afraid of being overheard. It's something else. I need a favor, a big one, and you have to promise me, you have to swear on our friendship, on everything, that you will hear me out before you say anything." A cold tendril of unease began to curl in my stomach. This was beyond a late night, post-breakup despair call. This was something else entirely. The gravity in his voice was alien and frightening. "Mark, you're starting to scare me. Just tell me what's going on. Promise me, Jake." His voice was desperate, pleading. "Promise you'll listen to the whole thing." Okay, I said, my heart starting a slow, heavy thump against my ribs. "I promise. I'm listening. What is it?" He took a deep, shuddering breath, and then he spoke the words that would forever cleave my life into a before and an after. "I need you to take my place for a night." I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it, as if the device itself had malfunctioned. I brought it back. "What? Take your place? What does that even mean? Like, cover for you at a meeting? Feed your cat? What are you talking about, Mark?" "No, Jake." His voice was terrifyingly calm now, as if he'd crossed some internal Rubicon and found a bleak sort of peace on the other side. "I mean take my place. I need you to come to my apartment on Friday night. I'll have left clothes for you, my wallet, my phone. You'll wear my cologne. You'll be me. For a few hours." The world in my warm, safe kitchen seemed to tilt on its axis. The coffee scent now smelled acrid. The hum of the fridge was a deafening roar. My brain scrambled to process the words, to assemble them into a coherent meaning that made sense. It couldn't. "You've lost your mind," I finally managed, a weak, disbelieving laugh escaping my lips. "That's the most insane thing I've ever heard." Why in God's name would you ever ask me that?" "Because someone is coming to see me that night, Jake. Someone I owe a great deal of money to. A very dangerous man." His words were coming faster now, tumbling out in a frantic rush. "It's not a bank, it's not a credit card company. These are the kind of people you don't mess with." I made a stupid mistake. I thought I could win it back, but I just dug the hole deeper. The pieces began to click into a horrifying picture. Gambling. I'd heard rumors, whispers he'd brushed off as exaggerations. He'd mentioned a high-stakes poker game a few months back, but I'd assumed it was just guys from his gym playing for a few $100. "Gambling," I whispered, the word feeling filthy in my mouth. "It got out of control," he admitted, his voice thick with shame. These guys, they fronted me money. A lot of it, and now they want it back. With interest. An interest rate that would make a loan shark blush. They're coming on Friday to collect. Or to make an example of me. My blood ran cold. Mark, you have to go to the police. Right now. No, he hissed, the word sharp with panic. No police. That's the one thing you don't do. These people, they have cops on their payroll. It would only make it worse. They'd hurt my family, Jake. My mom, my sister. You don't understand the world they operate in. So your brilliant solution is for me to take the beating for you? I said, my voice rising in anger and disbelief. You want me to put on your clothes and get my face rearranged by some leg breakers? Are you insane? What kind of friend asks for that? It won't be a beating. He insisted, a frantic edge returning to his voice. That's the point. They've never seen me. Not really. It's all been over the phone, through intermediaries. They know my address, they know what I look like from a driver's license photo. That's it. If you're there, in my apartment, wearing my clothes, smelling like me, they'll just think you're me. And then what, Mark? I snapped, pacing now across my kitchen tiles. They politely ask for the money they're owed. These, very dangerous men, are just going to have a calm, rational conversation with the guy who stiffed them. They'll deliver a message, he said, his plan sounding flimsier and more deranged with every word. A warning. They might rough you up a little, just to scare you. But it won't be permanent. They want the money, that's all. If they put me in the hospital, they never get paid. You're my size, Jake. Same build, same hair color. It'll work. It has to work. I was speechless. The sheer, monumental selfishness of the request was breathtaking. He was asking me to step into a vortex of violence, to offer up my body and my safety as a shield for his catastrophic mistakes. And where will you be while I'm playing this twisted version of Mission Impossible? I asked, my voice icy. I'll be out of town. I'll be getting the money. I have a client who owes me a huge sum for a project. He's been dodging me, but I'm going to drive to his house, camp on his doorstep. I can get the cash, Jake. I just need time. I need them to think I'm still here, in the city, taking their threat seriously. If I disappear, they'll go straight to my family. This way, they deliver their warning, they see I'm scared, and it buys me the 48 hours I need to get the money. It was a house of cards, a plan conceived in sheer, pants-wetting terror. Every part of it was flawed, dangerous, and morally bankrupt. No, I said, the word final and absolute. No, Mark, I am not doing it. This is your problem. You need to figure it out. Run, hide, go to the FBI, I don't care. But I am not taking a punch for you. I can't believe you'd even ask. The silence on the other end was absolute. I could feel his hope deflating, a balloon shriveling into nothingness. Jake, he whispered, and now his voice was broken, the sound of a man who has run out of road. You're my best friend. You're the only person in the world I trust. If you say no, I have nothing left. I'm looking at my service pistol right now. I'm not bluffing. It's either this, or I end it. Tonight. The air left my lungs. This wasn't just a shocking request anymore, it was a hostage situation, with his life as the bargaining chip. He had backed me into an impossible corner. If I refused and he followed through, his blood would be on my hands forever. If I agreed, I was potentially walking into a life-altering, or life-ending, confrontation. You can't put that on me, Mark, I said, my own voice shaking with a mixture of fury and fear. That's not fair. That's not what friends do. I know, he sobbed openly now. I know it's not. I'm a coward, and I'm a failure, and I'm so sorry. But I'm out of options. Please, Jake, please. I leaned against the counter, my legs feeling like water. The setting sun was now casting long, distorted shadows across my floor. My safe, ordinary Tuesday had been obliterated. I was trapped. The next 2 days were a waking nightmare. I moved through my life like a ghost. At work, I stared at my computer screen, the words blurring into meaningless shapes. I barely slept, my mind racing through 1,000 horrific scenarios. I thought about calling the police anonymously. I thought about driving to Mark's apartment and dragging him out of there myself. But the fear he'd instilled in me, of corrupt cops, of retribution against his family, was potent. He texted me once, on Thursday. Just an address and a time. Friday, 8 p.m. Key under the mat. Friday arrived, a day that felt like a march to the gallows. I went through the motions at work, my hands cold and clammy. My coworkers' laughter sounded distant and alien. How could the world just go on when mine was about to shatter? That evening, I sat in my living room as the clock ticked past 7 p.m. I had to make a decision. Go, or stay. Save my friend, or save myself. The moral calculus was impossible. With a leaden heart, I stood up. I couldn't live with the alternative. I wrote a note to my wife, who was visiting her sister for the weekend. Gone to help Mark with something. Back late. Don't wait up. The blandness of the life felt like a betrayal. The drive to his downtown apartment was a blur. I parked a block away, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles were white. The city lights, usually so vibrant, seemed menacing. Every person walking by was a potential threat. I found his building, a sleek, modern high-rise. The key was where he said it would be. I let myself into the sterile, silent apartment. It was neat, too neat, like a stage set. On his sofa was a neatly folded pile of clothes. His favorite jeans, a gray Henley shirt I'd seen him wear a dozen times. His wallet and phone were on the coffee table. Next to them, a bottle of his cologne. Feeling like I was moving through deep water, I changed into his clothes. The fabric felt alien against my skin. I spritzed on the cologne, the familiar scent now smelling like betrayal and fear. I sat on his sofa in the dark, waiting. The only light came from the digital clock on his microwave. 7:58, 7:59, 8 o'clock. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. Every creak of the building, every muffled sound from the hallway, sent jolts of adrenaline through me. 8:05, 8:10, maybe they weren't coming. Maybe it was a sick joke. Maybe Mark had already. A sharp, firm knock on the door. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Somehow, I forced myself to stand. My legs were jelly. I walked to the door, my breath catching in my throat. This was it. I was about to face the consequences of a life that wasn't mine. I turned the knob and pulled the door open. Standing in the hallway wasn't a hulking, scarred enforcer. It was a woman, a beautiful woman, probably in her late 20s, with intelligent eyes and a cautious smile. She was holding a bottle of wine. She looked me up and down, her smile widening slightly. Mark, hey, I'm Sarah, from the gallery. We talked online. You said 8, right? I hope I'm not too early. I stood there, utterly paralyzed, my brain refusing to process the information. The gallery, online, I stammered. Her smile faltered. Is this a bad time? You look like you've seen a ghost. And then, from down the hall, I heard a sound. A soft, muffled click. My eyes darted past her. The door to the stairwell was slowly closing. And in the narrow gap, for just a split second, I saw a face. It was Mark. He was watching, and he was smiling, not a smile of relief. It was a smirk, a triumphant, cruel, and deeply satisfied smirk. Then he was gone. The world crashed down around me in that single, horrifying moment. There was no debt. There were no dangerous men. There was only this woman, Sarah, standing there with her bottle of wine, and my so-called best friend, who had orchestrated this entire, elaborate lie to get me to go on a blind date for him. The shock was so profound, so absolute, that it felt like a physical blow. The fear, the dread, the moral anguish, the sleepless nights, it had all been fuel for a monstrous, twisted prank. He had weaponized our friendship, my loyalty, and my genuine concern for his life, all because he was too cowardly to go on a date with a woman he'd met online. Sarah was still talking, her voice now laced with concern. Mark, are you okay? You're really pale. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I just stared at the empty space where Mark's face had been, the truth washing over me in nauseating waves. The friend I thought I knew, the man I would have done anything for, was a complete stranger. And the shocking request wasn't the end of the story. The truly unbelievable part was the breathtaking betrayal that lay behind it. I finally looked at Sarah, her confused face coming back into focus. The charade was over. I'm not Mark, I said, my voice a hollow echo of itself. I began to unbutton the shirt, his shirt, wanting the fabric off my skin. My name is Jake, and I think you and I have both been the victims of a very sick joke. The aftermath was a slow, painful unraveling. I explained everything to a bewildered and rightfully angry Sarah. I drove home in a daze, the scent of Mark's cologne still clinging to me, making me feel violated. I didn't confront him that night. I needed to process the sheer scale of his deception. When I did finally call him, his tone was light, almost giddy. So, how'd it go? She was hot, right? You owe me one, man. The disconnect was staggering. He genuinely seemed to believe he'd done me a favor, that his Machiavellian scheme was the work of a brilliant wingman. He couldn't, or wouldn't, comprehend the damage he'd done. He had treated my trust, my emotions, and my very sense of reality as playthings. Our friendship, that cornerstone of my life, was not just cracked, it was pulverized. There was no coming back from it. The trust was annihilated. I told him I never wanted to see or speak to him again. He was stunned, then angry, accusing me of being ungrateful and unable to take a joke. But it wasn't a joke. A joke ends with laughter. This ended with the silent death of a 15-year bond and a fundamental shift in my understanding of human nature. I learned that day that the most shocking requests don't always come from enemies or strangers. Sometimes, they come from the people you love most, and the thing you can't believe happens next isn't an act of violence, but the chilling realization that the person you'd trust with your life was, all along, perfectly willing to gamble with it for the most trivial of reasons. The true story wasn't about the danger I faced. It was about the friend I lost, and the unsettling piece of him I saw reflected in the eyes of a stranger standing in his doorway.